This is Jamie Selects, and this is my first vibe code session where I thought I would just do some vibe coding live and kind of give you a sense of my workflow and see how it works. So, as I was doing my taxes this past weekend or yesterday, actually, I noticed that there's an improvement that I need to make in my tracker, which is that when you're doing your taxes, sometimes an expense can be 100% for business, or sometimes it can be partial. And in my tracker, I didn't have a way of calculating or accounting for that. So I need to add that into the tracker. So my workflow here is I have the page up on the left and I have cursor up on the right, and I'm just going to start a new agent. And we want to make sure that I'm on a new branch. So I have some different terminals here. There we go. Create a new branch. So let's just call this business allocation. Switch to new branch. Okay, cool. So what do we want to do? Let's do it in a planning mode first. I need to add a new feature that allows the user to set a percentage use for business on each expense. It should be a percentage field, an editable percentage field. Then there should be a column for the total deduction, which should be the cost amount times the percentage for business use. Okay, so I did that plan and we're going to see what it comes up with. I just realized that me typing is probably like an old school way of doing this. So I need to figure out how to set up dictation in my workflow. But for now, we're just going to do this. And one thing I'm noticing is that my design, it looks like everything's like currently in this table structure, which creates some limits on like how wide this can go. So if I start adding new rows or new columns rather, I can see this getting very messy very quickly. And so I'm going to need to update that as well. But I'm just going to start with this, adding a new column first, get that figured out, and then I'm going to figure out how to adjust my design, because this is going to be kind of a design system change, because you can see that this entire page is kind of limited by this table structure. And I want this grid to be more of like a free form, scrollable, almost spreadsheet like format, where it's like super flexible with the amount of information that I can put in here. As I'm going to be wanting to edit more rows. Okay, so let's look at the plans here. So it needs to create a database migration. Okay, so this is actually going to be quite a bit of change. So I'm glad I'm on a test branch. So let's go ahead and just have it build. Another future project is to create a staging version of my app so I can actually merge things to staging first and test things out. I hadn't done that so far. Kind of just go crazy with it, but I'm going to do that eventually as well. I'll probably record how I do that just so everyone can see. But yeah, this is why I always do plan first, because some things that seem like small changes actually can have larger impacts. And so you want to make sure that you're adding the change purposefully and not just doing it willy-nilly. Yeah, and then the design is okay, but I really want to improve the design of how everything looks as well. So that's going to be a future project. It's really funny. I did the coding bootcamp, and I'm really glad that I did the bootcamp because it gave me such a strong, or like, gave me a foundation for at least trying to understand some of the things that are happening. But what I can do with this is just exponentially greater than what I would have been able to do writing code myself. It's honestly incredible. So let me just start the server again. Looks like I need an NPM update. Yeah, one thing that's interesting is that the transaction data is pulled from Plaid and then added to the database, and then I'm going to be entering in my own custom fields. So it's kind of similar to how I have these fields already, but just one thing to note. Oops. And this is going to be my local host. Boy, I'm going to have to do some live debugging. I think it's because the server is not running. Okay. So trying to log in via localhost, and it's not. So when you see these kind of errors, you just copy the errors. Let's just try it again. I think it's because my server is not running. Can you help me look into this? And then you just paste the logs and see what it comes up with. Okay, so I found the problem. Fixes to reinstall npm properly. So it's doing that. Okay. So it fixed the issue and now it's reinstalling. Stand by. Okay, so we'll try it again. Okay, cool. Now the server is running. Now let's try to load. Okay, there we go. So on localhost, it's showing as me not having being subscribed. So let me look into that. So you can see on the production website, I have a subscription, and on localhost, I don't for the same website. On localhost, my account isn't subscribed. Why is that? And this is really not a best practice. I should be using a test account. So I wonder if I should just do that instead. Okay, let me do that. Okay. Should be able to use a test card here. How can I subscribe? Okay. So this is just a good example of sometimes you go to fix an issue and then you find a bunch of other issues. So the current issue is that my test account is not subscribed on localhost, which uses like the preview version of the app. And so I need to fix that. And so what you can do, since I have the Stripe plugin, is you can ask it, how do I do a test payment on here? And it should give me the answer. Your local scores in memory. Every time you restart the server, all subscription state is lost. That's not ideal. Okay. I'll have to address that later. So 130, do 3. Okay, cool. So now we see the percentage here, and then we have the deduction. So let's just confirm that it works. And these are all test payments as well. These are not my transactions. So let's just say the bicycle shop was 50%. Okay, so I'm adjusting the 50. Why is it not saving? Okay, so I want to keep that change that it made to save it. And I want to say, so when I click into edit the percentage and hit enter, it doesn't appear to save. It still shows the yellow box and the deduction is not updated. Yeah, because ideally you just have to click into here. Also, the way that you click in is not very good. And then what is that save button there? Yeah, this is not working very well. Refresh. And then one thing to keep in mind, or I'm going to have to keep in mind, is that for the downstream amount in the dashboard, I'm going to want to make sure that the deductions come from the deductions column and not the transactions. Yeah, so this is pretty interesting how it's taking so long for this one in particular. Let me ask, there was a database migration, so I'm wondering if I have to run that. Oh yeah, I wonder if I have to run this in Supabase. I'm going to do that really quick. Let me just move into ask mode. Do I need to run a database migration in Supabase first? So I'm going to run that. Okay. So now I did that. And now let's try to refresh and edit things. Boom. Awesome. Now we want to make sure that when we export it, it actually saves. So let's do new.sheets. Is that the way to do it? Let's just import this and make sure that the export includes the new columns. Perfect. You can see that it does. Okay, cool. So now I noticed that was a little slow. So I want to ask why that is. When I tap on the business use percentage number, it is slow to pull up the editing box. Why is that? Okay, so it looks like it's rendering everything. Every per interesting. Okay, so we can add row. Let me just ask though. I want to make sure it's not going to break anything. So I'm going to ask, is a small and safe change or something larger? Basically, I just don't want to make any huge sweeping changes at the moment. Okay, so let's switch to agent mode. You implement that, please. Always say please. Never know. Okay, and it's making changes. And let's just see. Okay, it has changes on my branch already, which is good. Actually, I realized the issue. Okay. This is the other crazy thing about vibe coding is that if you're a human doing it, you're limited by your own learning and failing and trial and error. Whereas here, it just has best practices and a wealth of knowledge that you just don't have access to. So it allows you to implement tools that you didn't know about before, which is insane. But you don't always know how everything works, and so you need to be careful with the changes that you make and do so in a safe way. So before it implements this, I do want to ask if this is going to be a huge refactor because I don't necessarily want to do that in this one branch. Okay, now it's actually writing the code. Okay, looks like it's finished. Okay, so let me try this again. Okay, that's a lot better. Awesome. Okay, I think that's enough for one. Let's just export this again and double check that the export was not impacted. 1,000, and it's doing the math right, which is good. Okay, cool. So hope that was helpful. I know it was a lot of silence, but hopefully the video editor will cut that out. But I just wanted to give an example of how you can add a feature super quickly when you're vibe coding. So this is my first one trying this out, so plan to do this more often. So hope to see you soon.